You're listening to Public Sports Announcement with your host, Stephen Baltiera.
Welcome into the last edition of Public Sports Announcement. I'm your host, Stephen Baltiera. This is the last episode of the season, and I'm really excited about this episode because we're talking a lot of different things, NBA playoffs, NFL draft coming up in a couple weeks now, actually a week and a half now, away from the NFL draft. That's a lot of exciting things, a lot of different things going on in that, a lot of rumors going around for the NFL. But let's go ahead and lead off with the NBA playoffs. And I want to talk about a certain topic that's been in the news quite a bit, but I think is bigger than most people are making it. And that is that the Spurs are down 2-0 to Golden State Warriors. Now, it's not a big deal because the Golden State Warriors are a very dynamic and lethal team. And I understand that. But we have to call out the stranger in the room, and that is Kawhi Leonard, because he has not played this entire season, and because of this so-called injury that no one really knows about. Now, earlier in this show, about a couple weeks ago, I was saying he's the Andrew Luck, that Andrew Luck's been hurt for about a year and a half, and no one really knows what's going on with him, and I kind of compared Kawhi Leonard to that he's turning into Andrew Luck. But I'm afraid it's a lot worse than that. And I'll explain why. Because Kawhi Leonard, there's a Bleacher Report story that came out yesterday that Kawhi Leonard often doesn't even talk to the Spurs. I don't know if you got the update, but there's times where the Spurs have contacted him and he'll take weeks to get back to them and ignores them. And, the Spurs doctors have cleared him to play. His team and his personnel have not cleared him to play. And he has not played this entire season, and he hasn't played the first two games of this series against Golden State. And that gives me concern of him, because I think it talks more not into the injury, but into his character. Because if there's one thing in sports that you ask any coach, if you ask any athlete, what they fear is a player who quits. Ask any coach. You can ask any coach, any player. A coach say, I can live with losses, because losses are going to happen, and they're a part of the game, and you're going to lose no matter what. You're just going to lose. No one's going to win every single game. And a coach can live with that. It's going to be tough, but you can live with the loss. What you can't live with is a player who quits. A player who quits on you is a player I can't tolerate. You saw Ezekiel Elliott last year in the middle of the season for the Cowboys when they played the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos won that game against them, but there was a play that everybody was talking about with Ezekiel Elliott because it was an interception, and he failed to get back to make a tackle Aqib Talib down the sideline. Gave no effort. He quit on the team. That's not acceptable. As an athlete, as a coach, you don't accept that. And if I'm a Spurs fan, I lose all respect for Kawhi Leonard. I have more respect for every single player that steps on the floor for the Spurs right now. They might get whipped by 25 points for the next two games of the series. And it's probably a likely possibility. But I have more respect for them for going out there and playing their hearts out than to someone who's afraid to get injured, who has given up on the season and consider this season a loss. Because if there's one thing you ask another coach too, there's a big difference between hurt and injured. If you're injured, you don't play. Hurt, everybody's hurt right now. You ask any NBA player, Kevin Durant, everybody's banged up. It's an 82-game season. No one's completely healthy going into the playoffs. But if you're able to play and you don't want to play because you consider this season a loss, and you just really don't want anything to do with the Spurs until you're a free agent and can find out where you want to go next, I don't want anything to do with you. If I'm a Spurs fan, I give my hard-earned money to go watch you play, support you no matter what. And if you quit on our team, fine. And if I'm any other team outside of San Antonio, that's a concern to me too. Is he going to quit on me? Kawhi Leonard to me is an interesting character because I've always considered him, he seems like the humble guy. He doesn't really talk much. Doesn't really, he doesn't have that superstar attitude to him. He's going to always seem like a modest person. But this character right here, what he's showing right now it's about me. Not about the team. It's me. Me first. It's a me first attitude. Can't deal with it. If I'm a coach, can't work with that. How did the coach of the San Francisco 49ers 10 years ago? Cannot win with him. Can't coach with him. Can't do it. If I'm Greg Popovich, can't win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it. And I like Kawhi Leonard. I think he's one of the best two-way, if not the best two-way player in the league when he's healthy. And, I don't know the extent of his injury. I don't know. But if doctors, medical professionals are willing to clear you to play, obviously your injury is not that severe enough that it's tampering you to play in the playoffs. Because if you really wanted to play in the playoffs, you would be out there. If you really thought you had a chance, you'd be out there playing. And doctors have cleared you to play. So either it's you don't want to play, or it's something psychological going on with you that I don't know about and no one else knows about. But to me, it reeks of, it's not worth it for me to go play because we don't stand a chance. I quit. I quit on the team. And if that's the case, in sports, that will not get you far. Now, Cole, I want to bring you in now. I have Cole Stevens on the show today for the last episode. Cole, you're a big basketball fan, avid follower of the sport. What do you make of the Kawhi Leonard situation going on right now?
I think it's a pretty tough situation because he is their main guy. They're basically starting to move the whole franchise around him, and to have a whole year where he doesn't play is pretty tough. And the new reports that you're hearing are not good, that his reps are saying, they don't even talk to the Spurs, the front office, or even Popovich. So just the fact that he's not even communicating with them shows me, even if he's not wanting to play this year, that he's probably not going to be with them much longer. Because if he's that distant when he's on the team and he's just hurt, imagine what he's going to do when it's the off season and he's healthy. Is he still not going to talk to him? So it's just a matter of mystery. So, the new thing in today's generation, or like the newer thing and the newer reports, is you don't want to wear someone down. So they are being more cognizant and aware of injuries, but there's also a thing where you got to be you still got to let your team know. You got to be in the practice facility so they see, hey, he's still with us, he's still trying, and then give them updates. Because if you don't give them updates, people are just wondering what's going on. Yeah,
and I think Greg Popovich made a good point. Some people kind of took it as a subtle jab at Leonard, but after the Game 2 loss, a reporter asked him about LaMarcus Aldridge and what he's been able to do this season, and Popovich pretty much said, I have nothing bad to say about Lamar Aldridge. He's been there for his teammates no matter what, hasn't quit on this team. He's actually, and people took it, you could either see it as a really good compliment towards Aldridge, or you could see it as a subtle jab towards Leonard. Now, I tend to see it as a subtle jab towards Leonard because Leonard's not on the team, he's not looking out for his teammates, and I think it was Pop's way of kind of saying, you know what, at least this guy's out here and giving it everything he has for me. And like I said, I love Kawhi Leonard. I think he is one of the best players and the best talents in the NBA. For the most part, he hasn't really shown any other. This is what's kind of weird to me because he hasn't shown any other characteristics of being that kind of guy. You look at Des Bryant, and if he did this, you'd be like, Des Bryant's kind of this guy that's about me, me, me. There's certain players, Russell Westbrook, and me, me, me kind of guy. He's all about me. So this kind of surprises me. But it's just a weird situation because this has been going on for the entire NBA season, and no one really knows what is going on.
Yeah, and that's the one thing where I just think it's kind of weird that he's not even trying to help. And a few years ago, I remember when they would say how, he seems like the perfect Spurs guy, and he's like, he's subtle. He plays in the system. So that kind of thing where they're like, he's a Spurs guy. He'll be like the next Tim Duncan or Tony Parker who knows his role and is not a me first guy. So now with the stuff this year, and especially the new things that are coming out, it looks like he's kind of diverting away. He is a California kid. You got to wonder if he's thinking about, there's openings at those teams where I could come back next year. So not this upcoming year, but the following year, he'll be a free agent with Klay Thompson. So you never know if he's kind of like, I want to get back home, at least be somewhere where I can be with other stars. Because at the moment, you can see Tony Parker's on the bench. He's not going to be around much longer. Ginobili may retire after this year. And then you have Aldridge. And last year, Aldridge wasn't doing anything before Leonard got hurt. So he was kind of like the odd man out where he was like struggling. And they're like, you're the number 2 guy. You got to be the star. And he wasn't putting up his end. And now this year, because he doesn't have Leonard, he's been picking up the slack. So that's good. But when it was both of them together, they didn't do as much.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I think you can look at the Spurs and say this is an aging roster that is on the back 9 of their careers as far as Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. And you never know. Greg Popovich might be out as coach pretty soon. He might say, you know what, I'm done. I got my rings in the pocket, so I might be done. But when we come back, here on PSA. We're going to talk a little bit about LeBron James and is he going to get out of the first round of the playoffs this year? Pacers look pretty good. Game 2 coming tonight between the Cavs and Pacers. We'll go ahead and talk about that and break down that series and everything going on in the NBA playoffs. You're listening to PSA here only on Zoo Radio.